In Bunny Kingdom, players play as rabbit lords, conquering the new world on behalf of the Bunny King. The player who manages to collect the most golden carrots by the end of the 4th round is the winner of the game. Bunny Kingdom is played in rounds. In each round, players will receive a hand of cards, and will each play 2 cards from that hand simultaneously. After playing those cards, those players will pass their hand to the left or to the right, and receive a new hand of cards from the player on their other side. All players will then simultaneously play 2 more cards from their new hands, and pass their hands again, and again, and again, until all of the cards in that round have been played. At the end of that round, players will score points. Cards will allow players to place bunnies onto this board, which represents the new world. For example, this card has the coordinate C9. If I play it, I get to place a bunny onto that space on the board. At the end of each round, players will score points for their fiefs. A fief in Bunny Kingdom is any group of adjacent territories controlled by that player. For example, this bunny on C9 is technically a fief. However, I could grow the fief by playing more bunnies on D9 and D10. Each fief will score its owner points. The number of points a fief scores is equal to the number of these little turrets on buildings inside of that fief, multiplied by the number of different resources territories in that fief produces. My fief here produces wood, and it has 1 turret. Multiply those numbers together, and that's the number of points your fief will score you at the end of each round. In this case, 1. If I expand my fief by playing more cards and placing more bunnies onto the board, I can add more different resources into that fief and increase the number of points I score. Now, 2 different resources, 1 turret, 2 times 1, 2 points at the end of each round. Cards in Bunny Kingdom will do many different things. Most of the cards in the game are these coordinate cards that allow players to place bunnies onto the board. Each coordinate card will have art that corresponds to the type of territory that card will allow that player to place a bunny in. Building cards will give players small tokens that they can place onto territories that they control at the end of each round. When a player plays a building card, they will collect the token immediately, but they won't put it on the board right away. At the end of the round, they'll have an opportunity to place that token if they like. Parchment cards look like little pieces of paper. When a player plays a parchment card, unlike the other cards, they'll take that card and place it face down in front of them, keeping it secret from the other players. Parchment cards will only get revealed at the very end of the game, at the end of the 4th round. That's because parchment cards will only add to a player's score at the very end of the game. Some parchment cards are treasures and will just add a flat number of golden carrots to that player's score. However, other parchment cards will add points to their score for doing different things or for meeting certain goals by the end of the game. So, at the beginning of a round, each player will be dealt 10 or 12 cards, depending on the number of players. Each player will simultaneously select 2 cards that they would like to play, and then reveal those cards to the other players in the game. Pass their hands to the left or right, depending on the round, and continue until all those cards have been chosen. Let's talk a little bit about the different buildings in Bunny Kingdom. The most common buildings in the game are cities. On the board, there are a number of 1-strength cities that begin on certain territories on the board. If you choose a space or play a card that already has a city in it, you get to place the bunny inside of that city, and now it is yours for the rest of the game. However, you can also play cards that will allow you to gain extra cities that you can add to territories that don't already have them. Cities come in Strength 1, Strength 2, and Strength 3, represented by these 3 tokens. The strength of a city represents how many of these turrets that it has, and represents how much it will increase the amount that your fief will score. Notably, the 3 strength cities have a requirement, which is that they must be played in mountain spaces on the board. Other cities can be played in any territory tile that you control with a bunny that doesn't already have a different building in it. Farms are buildings that can be placed inside of your fiefs to increase the number of different resources that they produce. Some farms will allow you to produce the basic resources in the game, which can be found in the New World board: fish, carrots, and wood. Other cards will allow you to produce unique resources that cannot be found on the board otherwise, and can allow you to increase the number of different resources your fief produces to a number higher than 3. Notably, all of these buildings, like the 3-strength cities, will have a specific requirement as to where they can be played on the board. In the game, there are 3 Sky Tower cards. A Sky Tower allows a player to collect 2 buildings, each marked with a similar color. Once a player has placed both of these buildings onto the board, the 2 territories that the buildings are in are considered to be adjacent to each other for counting your fiefs. Now, instead of being 2 separate fiefs, these two areas are considered to be one. The Trading Post card is a special farm. Once a player places a trading post into their territory, at the end of each round, they will choose one of the basic resources, fish, carrots, or wood, that it will produce for that round. They can choose a different resource at the end of each round. Camp cards are the last type of building, and they work a little bit differently than the other building cards. Unlike the other buildings, which must be placed in territories that you control with a bunny, camp cards must be placed in territories where nobody controls. For example, I could play my camp over here in order to take control of these carrots, which no one has claimed yet. However, there is exactly 1 card for each territory on the board in this game, and because no one has played the card for H4 yet, I know that it is still in the deck. Later in the game, a player might play that card. If another player plays that card, then they will displace my camp, removing my bunny and replacing it with their own. If I play that card later, I will simply remove the camp building from that space, and now it is mine permanently and has room to play another building. The last type of card in the deck is the Provisions card. When a player plays a Provisions card, they will randomly draw 2 more cards off the top of the deck and play both of those cards immediately. It's 2 cards for the price of 1, but you don't get to see what those cards are before you play them. One last thing to note is that on the board, in the mountainous areas, there are these small little lines of lava. These lines break adjacency in the game. 2 bunnies that are next to each other on the board may not be considered to be part of the same fief if they are separated by lava. You may have to play more territory cards to connect them around the lava in order to grow the size of that fief.